There they go over there! Get them! Come on!
While the Alien franchise is known for introducing us to the gnarly monsters known as Xenomorphs, it also created an impressive world filled with all kinds of opposing factions and special forces to deal with these entities. One such faction was the United States Colonial Marine Corps, or USCM, which specialized in immediate conflict resolution and could be deployed anywhere within human-controlled space. The Colonial Marines also underwent extensive training and had an arsenal of weapons at their disposal, and today we will be exploring some of the top, most insane facts about them and tell you about their inner workings. But before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin.
There they go over there! Get them!
1. Born from a century-old interstellar war machine. All about James Cameron's inspiration behind the Colonial Marines. For starters, the United States Marine Corps, or the United America's Colonial Marine Corps, was established after the passing of the National Security Act of 2101. This act established them within a structure of 4 combat divisions, 4 aerospace wings, as well as support services organic to their formations, with the intention of having a force in readiness. These Colonial Marines specialized in force projection and were completely independent in the sense that they could operate optimally even when they were stuck in environments far away from home for extended periods of time. They had been trained to deal with crisis instantaneously without any additional resources, and had a vast space fleet and technological weapons at their disposal. In no time, they established themselves as the nation's strongest means of entering hostile space areas and investigating distant worlds. Moreover, they gained a reputation as the galaxy's toughest shock troops and were capable of establishing their power on distant worlds to strengthen their own nation's security and position in the greater universe. While modeling the Colonial Marines, James Cameron sought inspiration from real modern military units such as the US Marines. There are many similarities in both these units' weaponry, team structures, squad makeup, tactics, and discipline, and Cameron even incorporated his own brother's experience in the Marine Corps into the Colonial Marines' design. Most of the gear worn by the Colonial Marines also has a dirty, grimy look, which is inspired by the looks of well-worn gear by the real-world Marine Corps. Of course, the Marines are equipped with some of the best infantry forces, but the Colonial Marines' ratty gear is a reference to the stereotype that the Marines are typically forced to work with the Army's hand-me-downs. Besides these weapons and gear references, the Colonial Marines' squad makeup and capability when it comes to tackling threats in dynamic environments also seems to be inspired by the US Marine Corps' adaptability. 2. Iconic weapons. Real guns in sci-fi disguise. The Colonial Marines squad typically consisted of riflemen armed with 10mm caseless rifles equipped with underbarrel launchers, which seems to be another nod to the Marine Corps. The squad also has several heavy weaponries, machine guns, flamethrowers for special missions, and access to state-of-the-art military technology. The US Colonial Marines were typically spotted using the M41A pulse rifle and M56 smart gun, and in some dire situations, they resorted to using armored vehicles, sentry guns, interstellar spacecraft, and flamethrowers. The M41A pulse rifle was classified as a pulse-action assault rifle designed and manufactured by Armat Battlefield Systems. It was regarded as the Colonial Marines' weapon of choice during the late 22nd century, and was often used to fight against the Xenomorph and Yautja species. On the other hand, the M56 smart gun was a man-made portable heavy machine gun with automatic targeting capabilities and a 4-round burst. It made use of 10 by 28mm caseless ammunition, and another variant of this gun, known as the M56A2 Smart Gun, was actually modeled after a German machine gun used during World War II. The film's armorer, Simon Arthurton, also pointed out that the Smart Gun was modeled after the MG42 by mounting it on a Steadicam harness and then disguising it with parts from a 250 Kawasaki motorcycle. In the same way, the M41A pulse rifle was essentially a Tommy Thompson submachine gun, which was a pump-action shotgun widely used during World War II. The shotgun was cut down to 15 inches and then attached to the bottom of a barrel to function as a grenade launcher, and the film's creative team encased this gun in plastic and painted it olive to give it the appearance of an M41A pulse rifle. 3. Method-acting military training for the cast. While the Colonial Marines were a force to reckon with, they did not just emerge as hardened and seasoned soldiers. In fact, they were subjected to inhuman training, including live-fire exercises, zero-G drills, and scenarios where they had to fight against alien forces in order to end up with the most extreme survivors. The Marines trained like they wanted to kill anyone in their path, and most of them quit, got injured, or died during these training exercises. Anyone who had successfully completed the training was regarded as a tough warrior, and these Colonial Marines took great pride in representing something larger than themselves as they dedicated their entire existence to the United America's mission for greatness and power. While training to play the Colonial Marines, James Cameron had put the actors through an actual boot camp-style training with top military advisors to bring an authentic feel to the film. These actors went through actual drills, maneuvers, and practiced assaults on stairwells across the studio, and even learned how to salute, wear military uniforms, and handle war machinery and weapons. The stunt coordinator Paul Weston stated that the actors underwent a physical fitness routine that went on from 8:30 in the morning to 5 p.m., where they engaged in exercises, running, weightlifting, and calisthenics. The actors were also required to read Robert A. Heinlein's Starship Troopers to prepare for the role, and their training boot camp was run by none other than the UK's elite Special Forces Regiment, the Special Air Service. 4. Personalization. Marines customized their gear. In the spirit of capturing an authentic military squad, James Cameron encouraged the Colonial Marines actors to even design their gear. They were given a bunch of props, paint, string, animal bones, and all sorts of decorative material to customize their own gear. Cameron hoped this would help the Marines' individual personalities shine through, and the actors did not hesitate to draw graffiti, talismans, and language details on their weapons and armor. Mark Rolston decorated his body armor with chicken bones and even used string and feathers to create a necklace while painting the words "My bitch" on his smart gun for his role as the machine gunner Drake. On the other hand, Jeanette Goldstein wrote "Adios" on her weapon to prepare for her role as Vasquez, and even painted the words "El riesgo siempre vive," meaning "the risk always lives," on her choice of weapons. Private Hudson was portrayed by Paxton, who used this opportunity to humor the rest of the cast by sketching designs on his armor and encouraging the film crew to paint over it. Some of these designs included a Japanese love knot, skulls and crossbones, and even his girlfriend's name. 5. Space hardware, vehicles, and equipment. While we have looked into the Marines' signature M41A pulse rifle and M56 smart gun, they also had a range of land and aerospace vehicles ranging from the M77 APC and the UD-4L Cheyenne dropship to the mighty Sulaco. These are just a few examples of the numerous tanks, artillery, and anti-aircraft vehicles included in the Colonial Marines Technical Manual, and this unit was also known for using functional, futuristic gear to aid them in their missions. For instance, Corporal Hicks was typically seen carrying around an old-fashioned military shotgun as his weapon of choice. Every single Colonial Marine went through training in knife fighting, armed combat, as well as one-on-one combat, and they emerged on the other side as accomplished warriors who could make the best out of any given weapon to survive the direst situations. 6. Squad composition, roles, and doctrine. The Colonial Marines were split between operating forces that included 4 combat units and the supporting establishment that took care of administrative and logistical duties, including recruitment, training, and research and development. However, most of the Marines were divided into the 4 units of the operational forces, including 4 combat divisions, 4 aerospace wings, plus a reserve division and additional wings. The Colonial Marines squad was made up of riflemen who were considered the core of the squad, and they had many heavy weapons crews to supplement their missions. These units consisted of a mix of specialists, including smart gunners, officers, and flamethrower units, ensuring the squad could deal with any kind of incoming threat. The smart gunners carried the heavy machinery for squad fire and support, and typically worked in pairs while implementing machine guns, while the flamethrowers stepped in during special mission needs in the tight quarters of the space colony. The squad leaders were also given handguns, but they weren't as useful in a crisis as much as the specialized weapons handed to the riflemen and smart gunners. 7. Fictional tech, motion trackers, sentry guns, and more. The Colonial Marines were also known for using advanced technology in their weaponry, including the fictional motion trackers and weapons such as the UA-571C automated sentry gun. Their integration of sci-fi technology in traditional missions greatly influenced sci-fi media, and most of these weapons laid the foundation for video game gameplay. One such example of this is Aliens Colonial Marines, a 2013 first-person shooter game developed by Gearbox Software for PlayStation 3, Xbox 360, and Windows. The game followed the Colonial Marines as they confronted the Weyland-Yutani Corporation and saved the survivors from the Sulaco spaceship, and players were given a wide variety of weapons, such as pistols, grenades, flamethrowers, sentry turrets, smart guns, and shotguns that could automatically track their targets. They also had access to welding torches in order to seal entrances and exits, as well as motion trackers to keep track of unseen enemies. 8. Names, patches, and Easter eggs. Interestingly, many names among the Colonial Marines are inspired by the book A Bridge Too Far, which deep dives into Operation Market Garden conducted during World War II. Some historical soldiers mentioned in his book are Hicks, Hudson, Frost, Dietrich, Drake, Wirbowski, Crow, Gorman, and Spunkmeyer, who are all notable names among the Colonial Marines. As it turns out, James Cameron's writing team had gotten their hands on the book, and they sought inspiration from it to take to the characters in the film. Wirbowski was a platoon leader in the 101st Airborne Division who was saved when PFC Joe Mann sacrificed himself by jumping on a German grenade, while John Dutton Frost was a veteran in primary missions carried out by the UK's 1st Airborne Division. He was also notably known for commanding the infantry battalion that seized the bridge at Arnhem during the Market Garden mission, and surviving grave injuries. Among other names that inspired the Colonial Marines was Brigadier Philip Pip Hicks, who commanded the glider-borne 1st Air Landing Brigade, and SS General Sepp Dietrich, who was a reference for Corporal Cynthia Dietrich. It's quite interesting to find Easter eggs to real-world incidents, and only James Cameron could have conjured up such an idea to base the Colonial Marines characters on notable war officers.
Rise and shine, Marines. This isn't a drill and you aren't in camp.
Marines across canon, expansions in games and comics. After the success of the Alien films, Gearbox Software decided to expand the franchise through the Aliens Colonial Marines video game that was set in the same universe. In fact, the game's plot followed the incidents of the 1986 film Aliens and introduced us to a group of Colonial Marines as they confronted the Weyland-Yutani Corporation and rescued survivors from the Sulaco spaceship. The game consisted of a campaign mode that had single-player mode as well as cooperative gameplay, as well as a multiplayer mode where players could compete against each other. The campaign mode had 11 missions where players had to move from one point to another while facing threats such as Xenomorphs or rogue mercenaries. They had access to a range of weapons found at specific locations or on dead mercenaries, and the Colonial Marines had health bars that could be restored through med packs or collectible pieces of armor. On the other hand, the competitive multiplayer mode divided the teams into Colonial Marines and Aliens, and these roles were switched after a given time limit. Most of the scenarios involved killing as many rival members as possible, setting up explosions in egg-infested areas to prevent the creation of more xenomorphs, or surviving alien attacks with restricted health and ammunition. While the Colonial Marines assumed a first-person role, the alien players had a third-person perspective and could not use firearms as they relied on their abilities to climb walls, run away, and attack the Marines with their deadly claws or deadly acid in order to emerge victorious, or attack the Marines with their deadly claws or acid in order to emerge victorious. The game's plot was set 17 weeks after the incidents of Aliens, wherein the USS Sephora had sent a battalion of Colonial Marines to look into the USS Sulaco. As this ship orbited around the LV-426 moon, the Sulaco had become the base for a large-scale xenomorph infestation under the control of hostile mercenaries affiliated with the Weyland-Yutani Corporation. The Marines do their best to get rid of this threat, and very few survivors, including Captain Cruz, Lieutenant Lisa Reed, and Android Bishop, take cover in the ruined Hadley's Hope colony complex. While the Marines realize that Clarison had fallen victim to a facehugger and needed immediate attention, Captain Cruz directs the spaceship to a close-by Weyland-Yutani research facility and ends up recovering a mystery prisoner from the Sulaco. In the meantime, Winter and O'Neill offer to take Clarison to the facility in the hopes that the medical officers might assist them in removing the xenomorph embryo from her body. Unfortunately, the medical officers declare that they cannot be of much help and that Clarison would die in the process of extraction, and they soon bid goodbye to her before rescuing the unknown prisoner. To their surprise, the prisoner is none other than Corporal Dwayne Hicks, who tells them that Weyland-Yutani had intercepted the Sulaco. While Hicks was captured and tortured, android Michael Weyland tried to gain insights into the xenomorph's origins and the Sulaco's weapons systems control. He also tells them that they have one last chance to escape with the help of an FTL vessel on the research facility, and Cruz then gathers every last officer on the colony and directs them to attack the Weyland-Yutani complex so that they can locate the FTL vessel. Unfortunately, Winter ends up getting cornered by a xenomorph queen, while Cruz sacrifices himself by launching a crippled dropship into the queen. While Winter, O'Neill, Reed, Bishop, and Hicks face Weyland as Hicks executes it, while Bishop connects to it and declares that it has everything as the game comes to an end.
Do you even know? Do you even know what you take away?
Please, don't do this. I'm just the face that runs the company.
O'Neill, think about what you're doing.
Aliens, Colonial Marines, game development hell. Unfortunately, Gearbox Software realized that game development was no smooth sailing process, and they had to deal with numerous production issues. To begin with, Sega purchased the rights to publish the game and handed Gearbox complete freedom to present them with a game idea revolving around a first-person shooter premise. While Gearbox writer Mikey Newman had already come up with a script, Gearbox collaborated with Battlestar Galactica's writers Bradley Thompson and David Weddle to develop the characters. They wanted the game to address the incidents that led to the events of Alien 3 in the hopes that the game would be considered canon. They even recreated locations such as the Hadley's Hope colony and the Sulaco spaceship, and concept artist Sid Mead was brought in to maintain authenticity and recreate the mechanics of the spaceships in the film. Entertainment designer Lauren Wood was also brought in to work over the conceptual designs in 2007, and the studio had several ideas such as squad-based gameplay that allows the players to issue orders to the Colonial Marines that were controlled by AI. It was supposed to feature gameplay including sealing air vents, hacking doors, and establishing sentry turrets, but most of these ideas were scrapped to make the gameplay accessible and adaptable for Windows, PlayStation 3, and Xbox 360 consoles. Despite all these efforts, the game was widely criticized over technical issues, low-quality graphics, superficial missions, and uninspiring gameplay. It didn't hold a candle to James Cameron's quality of production, and ended up bringing a bad name to the concept of the Colonial Marines. Many critics pointed out the game's cheap production value, which gave it an unfinished appearance, despite the effort put into making the experience as authentic as possible. The game also had several bugs, including poor collision detection and glitchy artificial intelligence that often caused the enemies to freeze or fail at recognizing one another. The story was also criticized for being inconsistent with the continuity set in the Alien films, especially since the game portrayed the Colonial Marines' efforts to fight Weyland-Yutani's private armies, while the film depicted them as one of these private armies that fought alien creatures. In this way, the game brought a bad rep to the Colonial Marines developed for the film, and journalists also criticized the game for making the Xenomorphs come across as unintelligent creatures that could be easily defeated. The Hadley's Hope mystery, film versus game timeline flubs. While Aliens Colonial Marines was criticized for its production and technical qualities, fans were most annoyed over the timeline discrepancies between the game and the film series. The biggest question was over the Colonial Marines managing to return to the colony in the game when the film concluded with the colony being in the atmosphere processor when it went nuclear. Gearbox Software's CCO, Brian Martle, stated that this could be explained through the advanced technology in the franchise, which might have contributed towards certain parts of Hadley's Hope being safe despite the nuclear explosion. Design director John Mulkey also jumped on board this explanation and declared that while Hadley's Hope had suffered great damage in the explosion, it was still out there, even if it was a mess. This is not the most convincing explanation out there, and it doesn't explain how the storm wall that only covered the opposite side of the colony in the film changed positions to cover the South Lock and helipad in the game. Additionally, the planet's rock formations seem to be pointing in the wrong direction across the video game, and the atmosphere processor is said to be 3 miles away from the colony, while the film stated that it was only half a kilometer away. This doesn't even begin to cover the discrepancies, and there are many tiny details, such as the changes in design of the doorways, windows, metal pipes, and black stenciled writings on the walls of the facehugger storage facilities. Moreover, the dead facehuggers that attacked Newt and Ripley in the game are also in the wrong positions and are not canonically in line with the film's incidents. Another key observation focused on the fact that aliens were still running wild throughout the colony, and Newman stated that this was possible since LV-426 is a porous, cave-like planet with more than one hive. The planet has never been described in this manner across the film continuities, which raised eyebrows among fans and critics alike. This also made it hard to explain how the aliens found their way into the colony, especially since the game developers constantly insisted on their authenticity and sincere attempts at reading the film's blueprints to recreate the details. Some key mistakes included the fact that the 17-day period before a rescue squad was sent in the Aliens film was turned into a 17-week or 4-month long wait period in the video game. The costumes for the female Marines did not match the film designs, and many fans called the creators out for sexualizing these characters and giving them hourglass-shaped bodies, long hair, and cropped shirts in the video game. The aliens in the video game also seem to be around 6 feet tall, which is quite short compared to the 7 or 8 feet tall entities from the film series. They also seem to be missing the elbow scythe blades and the sculpted vagina designs on their crotch, and the entire plot point where the alien embryo can kill the host during surgical extraction does not seem to exist in the movies. Finally, there are many differences between the USS Sulaco's spaceship design in the film and the video game, starting with the missing floor panel Ripley uses to close the airlock. The hangar was also considerably smaller in the video game, in addition to missing quotes such as Ready RM on the ready room and the missing cryotubes. While the cryo chamber changes were explained as a result of budget cuts and low production value, the creators got minor details such as Ripley and the others using the far left pods wrong, which created major disappointment among dedicated Alien fans. Pop culture impact and parodies. Besides spawning an extensive video game universe, the Colonial Marines also influenced many future sci-fi franchises, including Halo, StarCraft, and so on. In fact, the UNSC Marines in Halo Combat Evolved have a striking resemblance to the Colonial Marines in terms of armor design, characteristics, and personality. Both sergeants in Aliens and Halo also have similar appearances and tough personalities, and the creators of Halo even admitted that they sought inspiration from Sergeant Depone to design Sergeant Johnson. Additionally, the UNSC Marines' rifles had helmet recorders, digital ammo counters, and caseless ammunition, which were exactly the same as the design features of the Colonial Marines' signature weapon, the M41A pulse rifle. In addition to this, many quotes and dialogues from the Alien franchise turned into memes and pop culture references, and one notable example of this would be Private Hudson's signature phrase, "Game over, man." Some fans might even argue that this is the single most well-known quote from the entire franchise, and it reflected his desperation in a situation where he would meet a terrible death at the hands of the Xenomorphs. Interestingly, Bill Paxton had improvised this line while portraying Private Hudson to hint at the character's backstory as a habitual gamer. This was also hinted through the "Game Over" text on Hudson's helmet, and this subtle detailing was a direct result of Cameron's plans to encourage the cast to personalize their costumes and weapons. Marvelous verdict. And with that, we've explored some lesser-known facts about the Colonial Marines, ranging from James Cameron's inspiration to specific details about their squad, training, and weaponry. Additionally, it's quite interesting to see the Colonial Marines evolve across the franchise and play a huge role in video games, even if there is some disconnect in the two storylines. We hope you enjoyed exploring these facts with us, and we would love to hear your favorite ones in the comments below. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks, everyone.